of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start our meeting today, I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge any veterans in our community. I have a little thing I'm going to read here. The freedoms we enjoy as Americans are the direct result of the sacrifices of others. From apple pie to baseball, from voting to freedom of the press, our liberties have been protected by those who serve here at home and abroad. May we honor, remember, and value them every day. Thank you, veterans. Sandy, if you could please read our mission statement and take roll.
At Richmond Community Schools, we provide a quality education that empowers students to be successful in the global community. Board Member Telto.
Here.
Board Member Cunningham. Board Member O'Donnell.
Here.
Board Member Michon.
Here.
Board Member Bartel.
Here.
Board Member Fortuna, and I'm here. And Board Member Sutton.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. And also we have with us today both of our student representatives, Joseph Castillo and Elizabeth Schaefer.
Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Walmsley?
There were no questions regarding the personnel report in the agenda, as well as the minutes from the last board meeting on October 28th. In your board packet, you also find the current head count and FTE equivalent, so this is something we started at the last meeting. And then the claims and account, there were no questions regarding the bills that were paid for the month of October.
Anyone have any questions?
I did, Brian, and I apologize, but the CTE data monitoring and reporting assistant, how did that come about?
It came about because of the number of CTE students that we have and the requirements in coordinating all the field trips and activities that we're doing with CTEs. So the position is intended to be paid out of Perkins dollars, which is the CTE funds. One of the CTE grants.
And is it at will? I'm assuming it's not.
Yes, it's just every year, it's, if the funds are there to support it.
Okay.
The amount of paperwork, the follow-up phone calls, I mean, I've said it multiple times, that, my goal is 100% of the kids are in a CTE program. Those that finish programs, there's all that follow-up that we have to do with them to see where they're at, and whether they're, so we're getting to a point where it's really beyond just adding it to someone else's place. We're trying to offset some of the duties,
Thank you.
which is a good thing.
Yes, it is a good thing. Someone who used to do it. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item on our agenda is our instructional spotlight, and it's the food truck project.
Do you want me to go get that? I'll do
If you would mind.
Yep.
I had enough for everybody. I just didn't put what I think on your place.
I can take a picture if she wants. You talk about it?
Yes.
I'll take a picture of it and then you got it.
Oh, no, she's got,
Oh,
she brought extra,
oh, okay,
just so
perfect.
we have enough for everybody.
the podium. We have the PowerPoint right up on the podium. So this presentation, when Board Member Sean sent out to the staff, is there anybody interested? Ms. Christian responded with an idea for what her students are currently doing in Marketing 2. And so they're going to share. You want to give a little explanation?
Well, welcome and thank you very much for this opportunity for our marketing students to come. One of the tasks that the Marketing 2 students had was to design a food truck. They had to design the food truck based on the target market, what they were interested in. They had to pick a location, they had to design advertising, a menu, as well as do a SWOT analysis. And SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the actual food truck. And then they had to do a presentation. They also made prototypes, and I believe the girls have their prototypes with them. So without further ado, I'll let Cameron Moore go first because her presentation is up.
All right. So this is my truck. My name is Kim Moore and I'm a senior at Richmond, obviously. Okay. This is my menu. I'm a cotton candy food truck. So up there's all the things that I have and then all my flavors, obviously. And don't really have anything crazy, but we have some slushies, lemonades, milkshakes, all with cotton candy in them. This is my flyer thing, and I'm in New Baltimore, Michigan, and I have over 10 flavors of cotton candy, and those are all my social medias, and hours and everything, depending on the events and whatever I'm doing. This is my location. Brandenburg Park is where I'm mainly planning to be at. And then any private events or anything like that. This is my punch card, and by the second visit you get 50% off your order, and then at the fourth you get a free small cotton candy. And
Did you say 50% off?
15.
Oh, 50. That's control of the 50.
We're good at marketing. Yeah.
This is my food truck. You can see it there. It's my logo and everything, and sprinkles. It's my SWOT analysis. My strengths are that it is something fun and easy and cheap to get all the supplies for and to move around. My weaknesses are that it's probably seasonal. Really, people don't want cotton candy probably in the winter, and then opportunities would be birthday parties, grad parties, stuff like that, because it's different and so cute. The threats are that customer preferences. Not everyone likes cotton candy, unfortunately, but that's okay. I think that my food truck is going to be successful because of marketing strategies, and that I'll have a loyal customer base with my programs with the punch card, and that social media would be very important to let everyone know where I'm going to be my truck. And yeah, that's it.
Can I ask a question? Why did you pick, do you like cotton candy or something?
I like
The
cotton
whole
candy.
idea behind it?
Yeah, and I like the way that the chocolate looks. And then
That's right.
I am not sure where the other one is. Here it is. I found it. So Ava.
This is my food truck, and I'm Ava. I'm a junior, and my food truck's name is Sally's Smoothies. This is my design of the truck. I just put the little window and the logo on it, which is the two smoothies with the pineapple in the middle. Details about my truck. The name is Sally's Smoothies, and then my slogan is Smoothies that soothe the soul. And the location is the Howard Joe's parking lot in Richmond. And I also would travel to other festivals and events. And so we're open 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And I think it's a great location for walkers, runners, bikers, and just people going along shopping. And it has a lot of traffic between 32 Mile and Main Street. And then my menu. Every ingredient that is 4 or 5 or more is $4.50, and then 4 or less is $3.50. And it's just all kinds of fruit smoothies. And this is my app and my website. That way you can't order online, but that way you can still see the menu and look at the rewards programs and stuff like that. And then I made 3 different punch cards, and for every 10 smoothies a customer buys, they get 1 for free, and the worker will punch out one of the stars for each smoothie they buy, and then when they use one up, they get a new one. And these are my 2 advertisement ones, just the normal one for tells where it's at, what it's about, and then the other one is buy one, get one 50% off if you bring it in too. And it's Saturdays 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. for that sales deal. And I also want to create a Facebook, Instagram, TikTok page just so I can get myself more out there. For my SWOT analysis, my strengths are it's in the small business area, meaning they care more about their customers than the big chain would. We also use fresh fruit and all natural ingredients, and the smoothies come in a lot of different flavors with quantities. The weaknesses that we don't sell some food, which some people might want with their smoothies, and they also might not be as fast as the big chains and not as well known. The opportunities are again with food options. We could also eventually get a restaurant if we make enough revenue. And I also want to make smoothie bowls at one point. And threats would be businesses like Tropical Smoothie and Smoothie King, as well as if there's a lack of customers, it can make the business fail. And during the winter, it tends to get cold, and not as many people want to buy smoothies because it's like a cold drink. For my competitor analysis, their strengths are the size of the smoothies, because I did Tropical Smoothie and they have decent sized smoothies. And their weaknesses is the smoothies are pretty pricey. The opportunities is they can improve on their flavors with edible straws. And then the threats are again the winter times in places like Smoothie King. My voice and tone with the customers would be like finally kind of formal. I want to speak like their friends, but still keeping the business relationship. For my target audience, it's mainly everyone, but especially females between the ages of 20 or 40 that have more money, because I feel like smoothies are for richer people. My mission statement is Sally Smoothies came to be after I realized I wanted my love of smoothies to be shared with others. I named my truck after my dear friend Sally, who has inspired me in so many ways to create this food truck and follow my dreams. Sally Smoothies loves you. My elevator pitch is Sally Smoothies is a business that was created with our love of smoothies. We have so many different kinds of fruits to create even more kinds of smoothies. We can even put peanut butter and chocolate into our smoothies. We currently have 15 different varieties of smoothies, but we can also make more if the customer would like. We treat each customer as if they're the only one we have, and we love building relationships with our clients. And my goals / my vision for it is make enough revenue to make a cafe, and I just want to build good relationships with my customers. And in conclusion, Sally Smoothies is the best place around to get a fruity and nutritious drink for people of all ages. We have a very clean work environment, and all smoothies are freshly made at a low price compared to our competitors, and we care for all of our customers like you.
Thank you. One thing that we are working on now and the girls wanted to share with you, if you saw on our social media, the Facebook page, the students made buttons, and I have one of the buttons on right now, but right now we're dealing the whole idea of quality control, putting them through the process of making sure they're perfect and aligned correctly. So we have some for the board. Mrs. Zabel told me there were 7 of you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We have some for the board. They might not be perfect, and they're not going into the store yet. But ultimately, we have one of the pins that I have on for the board members. The girls have them. The girls pass them out to the board. I guess the board members can raise their hand. For those of you who are not board members, we'll have them for sale next week in the Devil's Den. And you can come by and pick those up. Two of the things the students designed that we've never had in the past, and some of you had the opportunity to go in there.
Not that it's for the children, but they requested it. We made baby onesies. So if you have a baby around, there's onesies with the Richmond logo, and there's dog bandanas. So those are two things that we currently just brought you this year. We are going to have 2 shopping days. As of right now, that's November 18th, which is next Monday. We'll be open to the general public from 4 to 7. And then December 12th, it's a Thursday, I believe. So a Monday and a Thursday, 2 shopping days that will be open for Christmas shopping. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
guys.
The fires are nice.
So this guy, how much of a landslide did this one win?
It was 92, they had 92, second place was 56.
Yeah.
Yeah, 92 votes.
They were all good.
Right.
They really were.
There was 17 buttons, we narrowed it down to 15, or we narrowed it down to 5 buttons.
Yes, I think I saw 5 online.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
Yeah, good job.
thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda is our fiscal year 2024 audit.
Do I introduce Jennifer?
Jennifer Watkins from Yo and Yo Auditing Firm. How long have you been doing your own? A while.
I've been with the firm about 18 years, and I've been doing school audits that whole time. And I worked on your audit, but under Michael Frawley, who was the partner on the job at that time. There we go. Thank you guys for having me tonight. We are going to go over the PowerPoint presentation for the June 30th audit. It was filed timely by November 1st to the state of Michigan. In front of you, you also have though the final audit report in single audit, and there's also a governance letter in there, but we'll go over just the summary in the PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me, or I'll take questions at the end, or you can email me at any time, right now or during the year. I know right now we always talk about audits, but if something comes up during the year, I'm always happy to take questions throughout the year. So the first thing we talk about is these 2 next slides actually come straight from your audit report, the independent auditor's report. The first is the district's responsibility, and then preparing the numbers that go in your financial statements, the internal controls, the review, the monitoring, the whole process to make your business office work, and then that's being your district responsibility. The auditor's responsibility is to be an independent third party to come in and say, you know, are those controls working properly? Are your numbers correct? And are your financial statements free from any material misstatement? Overall, your audit results were that you did receive a clean opinion, an unmodified opinion, which is what you want. And in the end, that is what they're saying, that we are able to say that your financial statements are free from any material misstatement, which I always think to mean that the board or a third party would not think differently of your district financial outlook for anything that we could have possibly missed. And schools, we pretty much audit everything. A lot of it we can get third-party confirmations for as well, so that's helpful. Audit results overall, your internal control evaluations at the top of the slide, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, so overall no findings. Your single audit is over your federal dollars. So if you receive over $750,000 of federal dollars, next year that moves up to $1 million, but right now it's $750,000. You have to have a single audit. We audited Child Nutrition Cluster as major program, which was refreshing because we've been auditing ESSER or ESF funds for the last few years. We had no findings as well under your single audit. Audit procedures, I won't go over all these, but it is kind of nice to see what an audit entails a little bit from start to finish. We spend a lot of time on internal controls at the beginning, watching the processes, you know, who's doing the monitoring, what are the checks and balances there, all the way to kind of the middle where when you mentioned how long have I been on the audit, we do something unpredictable every year. Also, we just public accounting, we always have a new intern or a new staff, because that's just the way of public accounting, which is helpful. They have a fresh set of eyes, they look at things a little bit differently, and we always have something unpredictable. So we're always doing a step that we didn't do in the previous year, asking maybe to see something a little different. Under schools, you guys are under governmental auditing standards. You also have the grant compliance testing for all your federal grants. There's also state compliance testing. So I sit on the audit manual committee at MDE, who writes kind of that compliance requirements, and then we also test for that during your audit as well, to make sure that you're not only under your federal compliance, but the state compliance. Your governance letter, a few highlights from that are listed here. So if we had things like we disagreed with management on how something should be handled, or maybe we couldn't find information, we would let you know. We also had no uncorrected misstatements. So all of those things would be in the letter, and if we had something to that effect, we would let you know. We'll hear, but we'd also write it in the letter. We did have 2 comments this year, which are called kind of other matters for management's consideration. They're not considered findings, but more helpful items for the future. The first one is net cash resources. And really what that means is excess food service fund balance. I believe it was the issue last year, and I keep using the term issue at board meetings, but it's not really an issue. It's a compliance problem, and it's happening throughout the state of Michigan right now. So I say that, I keep saying it at board meetings because it's at every school that I really have gone to, except for a couple more city schools that I've been to. May not have it, but most schools, I think probably 90% of the ones that we audit have this as an issue. You are only allowed to have 3 months expenditures left over in your food service fund balance as of June 30th. 3 months meaning your total expenditures for food service divided by 9, multiplied by 3, that's your allowable amount. And then they want you to spend, basically they want you to spend it like a nonprofit fund. We've been working with the state. One, now it's not a finding, we've never wrote it up for a finding, but some auditors were, so it's just a management comment, and they're working with districts. They know it's a problem throughout the state of Michigan to spend it down, but we're talking to them at the state level to maybe getting able to like assign some or, you know, commit some for future periods and not have it part of that calculation. So you could use it for like a major remodel or something in the future. The other one was audit adjustments. So there were no material audit adjustments, but there were some non-material audit adjustments made. And those were given to Tammy as well. Balance sheet, the next couple slides are snippets of your balance sheet for your governmental funds. You had 3 major funds. General fund is always major. Then you had the debt service fund, capital project fund, and then all your other funds together are included in that non-major governmental funds column, things like your food service funds, student activities, and such. Total assets was $10.4 million. And this is kind of a snippet, a snapshot in time for June 30th. A lot of things get accrued back. So $6.7 million of that was in cash, and then $3.5 million was in due from other governmental units, which, talking about a snapshot in time, that's mostly your July and August state aid that gets accrued back, and then any federal grants that are waiting to be received. Liabilities total for the district was $3.5 million, and again, most things were either accounts payable and then also summer pay, so July and August pay, salary pay, payables, and related benefits. Next slide has a little bit of deferred inflows at the top, and those are unavailable revenue due to the 60-day rule. So if you receive funding after 60 days, it's considered unavailable. And then below that is your overall fund balances. Total for the district, you had a fund balance of $6.9 million. 3.8 of that is considered, or is general fund. There is a small amount of general fund that was non-spendable for prepaid items. And then there was also about $400,000 that was assigned due to the 24-25 budgeted amount. All your other funds, debt service, capital project, and your non-major are either restricted or committed for specific purposes. The next slide goes over your budget to actual. You have original budget, final budget, actual. Your overall revenues were under budget by about 1%. Your total expenditures were under budget by about 4%. To note there, your expenditures must be under budget to stay in compliance with state guidelines. And then your overall net change, your final budgeted amount was for an increase of $255,000, and your overall increase was about $749,000 to reach that $3.8 million for general fund balance. Couple pie charts just to show expenditures in a different way. These are only general, or expenditures and revenues. These are only general fund. So this shows by source your revenue. Your state and local make up 90% of your overall revenue sources, and that is pretty much all directly related to student count, except for some of the restricted state dollars. So kind of 90% of your overall budget, really is affected by your FTE counts. Your expenditures by function, here you can see instruction and support, the orange and the blue pie pieces are 95% of your overall general fund expenditures. And then we have some 10-year histories, so from 2015 to 2014, this gives a MIPSR's rate history. For 2024, we were almost at 50%, including UAL, but 31% without it. And then this is your enrollment trend. You can see it's been pretty consistent and up, at least the last 3 years as well, over 1,500 students, but gives a nice trend analysis for the last 10 years with your information. Foundation allowance, which has also been increasing. I know I was just talking to another school district, which I think from 2004 to 2015, it stayed pretty close to that 7,100, but we have seen some increases in the last few years to the foundation allowance. And then overall general fund balance, to show a history of your fund balance, you can see here in the last several years, well, since 2021, from 2020 to 2021 through 2024, you've had some increases, and that really follows kind of the ESSER programs, the GEAR programs, and those additional dollars, and then you had that small increase in the last year to the 3.8. The blue line is the unassigned portion, which follows pretty closely to the overall total fund balance as well. Two ratios for you. The first one is fund balance as a percent of unrestricted revenues. That's the number the state uses to see if you're in financial distress. It must be over 5%, or the state puts you on a watch list basically for a deficit. So that's what they use now. Before, a few years ago, maybe 5 or so, they used to use the fund balance as a percent of expenditures, so we still look at that as well. Many districts still use that number. Most of mine still use the expenditure number as well. So 2024, your fund balance as a percent of unrestricted revenues was 23%, up over the previous year of 19, and fund balance as a percent of expenditures was 17% for 2024, and up over the previous year, almost 15%. And that's all I had. It was a good, clean audit. We got a little bit of a late start, but Tammy worked really hard to get it all done, and Jordan, who is one of my best guys and best managers, he did a really good job as well and worked well with Tammy. So got it all done and got it done timely and with no findings. So it's a pretty good pretty good audit. I'll have you take any questions though. Yep.
Just the non-material adjustments on the very beginning, an example of what that is.
So we have a number, I guess that would be materiality, so it's anything below that number. But it could be something as simple as, like UAL is a common one, because that gets adjusted at year end. So it's a lot of things that get adjusted at 6/30, and that's the only time you make an entry all year. So for the UAL, you have to accrue back July and August payments, but also a lot of systems have it accruing during the year. Sometimes there's like a little bit of a duplicate amount. So we're checking every figure, and maybe we notice something that didn't get caught in the final process because it's one time a year entry, or maybe it was a little bit off what they said it was, so we correct it to make it the accurate number that way we're checking it. But that would be an example. I don't have them in front of me, but that would be, yeah, that's one that happens at a lot of clients, so that's the top of my head.
And then my other question, Brian, the food service thing, so explain that to me that, because I always thought that we did when, towards the end of the year to keep, am I thinking the right thing, we can only have so much money in there that we spend that money.
Correct. What was explained is, and what the rules are, is you can only have that 3 months of food service. We, over the last couple of years, with all the feeding and the increases in revenue that we've got for food service, we have more money in our fund balance for food service than what we're allowed to have. So we submitted spend down plans to the state, buying equipment, doing whatever it is. We're not spending it, I guess, as fast enough as they would like us to get
Yeah,
done.
okay.
But
With
it is
COVID,
with-
they increased the rates, you guys were receiving more money per student, plus with the free meals, more students were getting it, and now you have the Michigan school meal, so it's continuing. And a lot of things were backlogged, I know, and supply chain issues and trying to order everything, so I know it's a problem, though, throughout many districts right now.
So bottom line is, they just want you to do it faster.
They want us to get it down.
We're doing it,
Correct.
but we're just not doing it as fast as they would like to see, so that's where it comes up. Is that safe to say?
We're very efficient in what, we don't have a lot of waste, we
Oh,
don't have a
yeah.
lot of overhead stock, so what some districts may keep on hand, we don't keep that excess stuff.
Okay.
And a lot of our equipment has been replaced from the 13 bond, the 20 bond, food service account, so there's not big ticket items, if you will. We did replace some of the lunch tables.
That's right.
By a food truck. So yes, we're in that spend down process to get us within the rules and regs of what we can keep.
And that's really where my question was coming. I knew we were doing that, so that's just what piqued me to ask that question.
And it's actually a federal requirement, so the state is just following what they have to follow, but they've been really good about, understanding that it's kind of, they've caused the problem, so they're working with districts to spend it down.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would just thank Tammy, Angela, Trish. Every year I say this, this is officially my 11th audit, and all 11 have been clean, so it takes a great team behind the scenes that does this, so I appreciate all the work, and it's a lot of stuff that has to be done. And one of the things that I think we underestimate, and Tim and I had a conversation about this last week, was over the last 5 years, the amount of grants that we have been given, and the paperwork, the accountability, the logging, the entrance, and that has, whether it's from COVID dollars to ESSER dollars to 35J, 2108D, it's just been amount, and the amount of regulations that come with it is very intense. And to be in a position where where it's 1% off in revenue, when I look at my own household budget, And if I'm 1% off, I'm not that good at my household budget, sorry. But when you look at expenses and all that, the stuff that comes up, it's maintaining all that is very challenging, but we're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda is our 2020 and 2022 bond budget review. Is that where we're at?
Can you pull it up on that screen, Tammy? Screen on the desktop or?
No, it's on the flash drive. Go to the little folder too. There we go. And then we'll just go back one. It's number 3.
What do you want to see, Brian, first?
The PowerPoint? All right. I'm going to start, and then I'm going to turn it over to Tammy, kind of explain some of the categories, and then it's almost a year ago that we were talking about the remaining bond funds and what we could or possibly use as we were winding down the projects. So if you recall, we issued the voter-approved bond that was approved in November of 19 in 2 series, one in 20 and one in 22. So this is going to give you a summary of where those dollars went, and then what's left and some ideas of what we're to finalize the bond, the last of the bonds.
So we divided the expenditures into basically 5 categories. So we had site improvements, which included parking lots, driveway, drives, sidewalks, baseball field work, softball field work, anything related to outside. Building improvements is our largest number at $33 million, and that was all of the renovations done inside all of our buildings, including work at the bus garage. So we did additions at the elementary and remodeled the entire inside. We reorganized classrooms at new classrooms in middle school. We did an addition at the high school. We reworked things in the bus garage as well. So that is everything building improvements. Along with that, we purchased about $1 million of equipment and furnishings, and that included classroom furnishings, office furnishings, everything you can think of, some outdoor bleachers, equipment for inside or outside, whatever we would need that could cover the bond. Then we had bond issuance costs, and we had an arbitrage rebate. So those costs are just that $297,000. And we have unspent funds of about $87,333.
So the next slide shows the exact same number with when all the dust settled, we have $39,271,562 that was approved by the voters. As Tammy said, these are how we spent them. You think of furnishings as this: if you could pick up a building and shake it and anything falls out, that's considered furnishings. So those are the items that we purchased. In this bond that we passed, the biggest chunk was renovations and additions. We're at the elementary school, and then the gymnasium addition at the high school. So when you look to the far right column, we're a little less than $90,000 that all the bond projects are done. All the bills have been paid. Any bill that isn't paid, we have the money sitting there to pay them once they've completed whatever has to be done, but pretty much everything's been paid. So on the next slide, things that came up over the last year that we had to purchase or was approved by the board to purchase. We have some mobile book carts that came up with looking at additional. We had a secondary classroom that didn't have a cart for some reason. We only had 4 sections, and we have 5. We prepared for that 6th kindergarten section, so we have the furniture ready. whether that's going to be kindergarten this year or next year or first grade. We had some box light interactive panels, the stuff, the displays in the classroom that either this particular one, there was a classroom that didn't have one, so we made sure the system's there. Support service furniture, these were office areas that, like social worker, counselors at the middle school that had a new office space but didn't have furniture in it. We met at the end of last year, the high school lunch tables, many of them were falling apart, not able to close properly anymore. They were beyond their life expectancy. This is another where we spent down on the food service fund, where we took a portion of that, paid out of food service, but we had to pay a portion out of it, so we used bond. We had a system in the IT head-end room that failed. It's a climate control system. It's an interior room that keeps the servers and all that at a certain temperature. That's quite costly. And then there's a door access reader in the preschool courtyard that didn't have a door access reader when we were looking at some of our security protocols. If they were out in that area and there was something at the other end of the courtyard, there was no way for them to get in the building. So from a safety perspective, we added that one. So those are some of the things since our last conversation that we were at. So we were now down to, hit the next slide. If you looked at the board packet from the previous, these were things that we had talked about. The shop put, which we did, lunch tables we did, and furniture and some office furniture we completed in the process. The IT room, there's the mini gym at the high school that doesn't have air conditioning yet, but that's on the to-do list. There's some replacement of doors from the original building, which would have been 1996, whether it's at the elementary cafeteria doors. And we always have additional buses because you can always use keeping your bus fleet up. So we're now at a point, we had talked previously at the board meeting about the high school bleachers. We talked about the curtain wall at Lee Elementary School between the cafeteria and gym. The high school bleachers, repairs have been made. The guts of the bleachers in the bleacher report are actually good. It's the outside of the bleachers, which would be the seats and the railings that we could look at, and that may, I don't know if you could retrofit it and so forth, but right now we have two really immediate, I don't want to say immediate because it's not at a crisis level, but things that are on our top of our list, if you will. The elementary the doors that go in from the outside by the cafeteria over by the dumpster area, if you want to kind of visually picture that area, where we have people come in for evening activities into the cafeteria. Those storefront doors, the locks and mechanisms they're not working. So they're locked, this badge swipe system is not properly working. We've had repairs out there. The doors and everything need to be replaced. The two doors that go from the cafeteria to the outside of the elementary school and the gymnasium of the elementary school to the outside, they're green doors. If you're driving by, they're the original doors. They are rusting. We put stripping at the bottom. They were not replaced, and they were not on the scope to replace, but those would be doors that we would like to replace. And then the furniture at the elementary school and high school, these chairs here, the caps are coming off, some of the chairs, the welds are starting to go. These are the original furniture, I believe, from the 96 bond. So if you imagine furniture that gets a lot of use over a day, over a period of 20 years, 20 plus years, it's going to fall apart. We currently have in our set-asides, set-asides for computers, laptops, et cetera, in our fund balance that we have. We have a line item for, what's the term here? Capital projects, non-bond capital, building site improvements, which was originally earmarked for the doors. The doors are going to have to go out for bid, and they're going to have to come to the board because they're going to be pretty pricey. My recommendation to the board is to close out the bond. We use the remaining bond dollars to get those doors replaced. And then any of these other items, we could take the money that was originally allocated for the doors and the non-bond capital projects or building site and use them for these other projects, whether it's the movable wall, whether it's bleachers, or whether it's library furniture, et cetera. But this would then zero out the bond, and we would be, all the bond dollars would be expended. I don't believe they're not out for bid yet, the doors, right?
No, we're working on finalizing the specs.
So my recommendation would be, we'll put out, there's really 5 sets of doors to put out. One is the double doors going into the cafeteria, 2 sets of 2 doors. The doors on the cafeteria to the exterior of the elementary school. The doors on the gymnasium to the exterior of the elementary school. And at the high school, the boys and girls exterior locker room doors. Those are the original blue doors. A lot of the handles, we've had a lot of repairs on those handles. The doors have been, they're almost 30 years from 95, that addition, that locker room. So they have taken a beating over 30 some odd years. So, and then once we get the bids in, then we would prioritize which doors first and whether we use the non-bond building site funds.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this $87,333 that we have left, how long do we have before we have to spend that money? Is there a date that we have to spend it by?
We issued the bonds in 2022, so we really have to budget it in 3 years.
Okay.
And we can go as long as 5 years.
Okay.
3 years, you have to have 85%
Yeah.
of it spent. We had no problem doing that. So the 22 bond is, we're really, from that 5 years to 27. This would really, to me, would be done in 25. I'm anticipating if it is doors, it's at least a 4 to 6 lead time to get the doors ordered in here and then installed. So you're talking, let's say approved, you're probably talking March, April, finish the project.
So do we have, like, since we just had a bunch of doors done in this bond, do we have an idea about what we're thinking a bid should come back at? Is this gonna be enough to pay for the doors?
No.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was
The
thinking.
quotes that Preston got from double doors by the dumpster, the main entrance where the community would come in, was about $60,000 for those door ones. Looking at quantity, we can then look and say, okay, maybe there's a, based on the number that they're bidding and then the scope, they might get us a better deal. And where we might have to use, or potentially could use bond / building site.
Yeah, like the money that we have set aside for these things. So that's my question is it possible that it would take all of that money, what we have set aside for these doors and this money?
I was going to ask, what do we have set aside?
Yeah.
I think it was 150,000.
150,000.
So it's very possible then that it will take what we already have set aside for doors plus this to get this door, all these doors set and done.
I'd be surprised if it took
All of it?
Because you're talking 87, let's, for the sake of it, 90,000 plus 150, or 240,000. Even if you took the argument, a double set of doors cost 30,000, you got 60,000 for the one, another 60 for the other two is 120. And it's you're probably 150 total.
Okay, I was thinking that there was a
Because the other
total of
doors-
6 sets, but there's not.
No, you got 4
Okay.
doors, so 2 sets of 2. And then the cafeteria and gymnasium are each a set of 2 doors. And then the locker room, girls and boys locker room, and the high school is just a single door.
Okay.
So then you're saying the things that are highlighted in yellow? Yes, I am going to say in yellow. Yes, exactly. So the 3 highlighted yellows, that's what you're looking at to do, either coming out of 160, did you say? Or what we,
150.
or 150, and you think you could do the 3 yellows and 150 with still the 87, some of the 87,000 left?
We would
Right,
close.
that's what you're
But
saying.
from a,
So,
paying for it, I would want to charge the bond first.
Right.
Get that
Right.
done, and then go into the set aside, just from a, to zero out the bond.
Right.
so then does it, so you're looking for us to say, yep, that's what we want you want us to do, or we want you to do. And then the ones that aren't yellow, then they're gonna come back and we're gonna have that in a conversation after we know what all this is gonna cost us and what we're doing about. Is that what you're saying?
What's left is looking at, is there ways to do that going forward?
With what we
With
have, the
either
remainder of the 150.
Or looking at set-asides going into next year's budget to accomplish, if we want to do the bleachers, we want to do the movable wall, and then let's, the movable wall, I believe it was around $80,000 to replace that wall when we originally bid the scope of the project out. It was an F. So let's assume we have 40,000 left, we would have to set aside another 40 to get that project done.
Or, and then so please Danielle, or I say, so what you're saying with respect to the bleachers, instead of brand new, it's my thing, instead of, we don't need new bleachers, even though how long do we have where they couldn't open up? So now you're telling me that's all fixed? They all
According to
open
the
up
present,
real
all
good
the
every
guts
time?
in it is all opened up.
Okay, so then you're telling me then you're not interested in new bleachers. You think you're going to be able to spend money to get them updated. You said to me something about the railings.
Well, the
railings are
current,
somewhere.
the current bleachers do not have, at the middle school, when the ones we replaced in the 13 bound, when you open them up, the railing's gonna pop out for accessibility as you're walking up and down. Our current bleachers, which would have been purchased in 96-ish,
96.
have railings you have to manually put on and take off.
Plug in the holes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
So, for a while, I did not know we even still had those. We found the railings on those bleachers in a storage room as part of that, when we renovated the building, we found them. We have to manually install those every time we open and close the bleachers. So, the conversation is, if we're gonna do that, which we should be doing that, or do we look at replacing the bleachers? And what I don't know is, when I said the guts are good, if you can replace them with the ability to have the railings open and close automatically. We have replaced, there's several sections of bleachers, you're gonna see there's a darker blue seat, that we have been replacing those and trying to keep them in rows so that they at least go with the scheme and look nice.
So then the conversation when it was, we couldn't, they were too old, we couldn't fix them, but now we have fixed things, because
We-
now the bleachers are working. The only thing we have is we're not providing the railings for
The stairs.
not just old people, but people walking up and down the bleachers. I guess, yes, everyone knows that I have been pushing for the bleachers, but if now you're saying to me that we have those railings, I find it, put the railings in when we have that, I don't get it. It's a safety
I think-
thing. You watch people going up and down those bleachers, I don't get it. And I thought it was because, well, we didn't have the railings, but I thought it was a whole, we had to replace everything because they weren't coming in and out. So if it's that we've got those railings, they need to be put in when the railings are out for events.
I will again have the
And then I
conversation
will
with.
probably
Bill.
stop talking about new bleachers at the high school. Because if they've been fixable, then let's.
The
move forward.
opening,
Spend money
closing
on the movable wall.
has been fixed in terms of the repairs to cleaning the wheels and the motors, all that's been fixed. Because that was a short-term fix in order to get them moving. What we've done with that process, it's now part of an annual process, which wasn't previously, repairs and cleanings that we do with all of our bleacher inspection district-wide. All right, so we've got that piece fixed. The railings is another issue, and I will we'll address it with Mr. Trent and Mr. Field, if that now becomes a requirement.
Yeah, I'm curious how easy it is to
It's not,
take
it's
the
not
railings
easy.
off and on, that's
It's
why they're
not.
not being, and that's why they're not being put on.
Listen, I get that that's the point, but the bottom line is, we need to have the railings.
No, it's a safety issue.
Absolutely.
No, I agree. That's
I
what I'm
get that
saying.
it's probably not.
Yeah, like obviously, like, to me, like, the doors are a safe, safety issue. Absolutely have to have those.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
If we were to, could we put any of that in the new fund that we've been discussing?
Anything on here, I mean, on any future bonds that you could put on it, I mean, you could, because eventually, as a community, you're gonna have to, as a community, we're gonna have to talk about a future. I know the gym floor at the high school, it's 20 years old. That floor isn't the original floor of the middle school, it is 50 years old. They don't,
You can't say
you
that.
can't, we're down to the last standing. At some point, that's going to be a conversation with the community on future, just as it was in the 13 bond, 19 bond that we went through the community. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
So are you looking for anything from us tonight?
Just, I guess, is there any, does anybody not, or can I move forward with looking at the doors and getting a bid so that we can get them to you? And then, once they come in, we charge it to the bond, and not the bond,
Not the
non-bond building and site bond. And then these other bond items can go towards that one, then we can zero out the bond and be done with the 19 bond.
I'm going to bring it.
So can I ask you one more question? So once the doors are settled then would you be bringing this back to us with how much we have left on the set aside, if we have any left?
Yeah,
To
I can-
prioritize the rest of the
I can bring the
list?
set aside, and you can, at that point, as the board
After the
decide,
doors
are
are-
we going to spend it? Or do we
Okay.
want to have a conversation about future?
That's what I would prefer.
If I can bring that set aside, we also have the set aside, I can show you what we spent each year on the buses. You can have an update on how much money we set aside for the turf that's sitting
Yeah,
there,
okay.
so we have all that. Yeah, we can bring that.
Okay.
Is the wall actually moving in
The elementary wall does open and close. They don't open it as much because we've moved a lot of the presentation to the auditorium. Better sound, better conditions for performances. So it doesn't move. It does take 2 people to operate that wall. I'd probably argue 3 because if something does get, I mean, it's a big wall. I mean, it's tall, and if it goes off track, you want to make sure it's guided and working properly.
Okay, does anyone have any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, next item on our agenda is our MASB Leadership Conference. 3 of us attended this leadership conference, Sandy did, and Candace and I. Do you want to go first? I don't care.
It doesn't matter to me.
Go, Sandy, go.
Okay, so I know, I don't have any slides or anything this year because Angela's no longer with us and she kind of did that for us last year. But I kind of have just like a brief summary of the things that I did attend. I was there all day on Saturday. And the first thing that I was able to be a part of is the speaker, Dr. Adolph Brown, who actually was a very inspiring speaker. He spoke about students being overlooked due to the way that they look or their home life, how their home life may be. And he had several key messages that I took away from his presentation anyways. And that's just basically remembering that we're all human. The feeling of belonging is important to learning. Self-reflection is important to all humans. Ask yourself who I am. And I'm not sure if this is true or not. I have it written down, so, but he did say this. I didn't have a chance to actually, I guess, look it up to make sure that it was correct. But he said that music and art are the only things that open up all parts of your brain. Right? He said that, right?
That's what he said.
That's weird. So I thought that was very interesting. I learned that. If it is true, I didn't have a chance to fact check that, I guess.
That's true.
Yeah, so, okay, all right. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me that he said is to actually see someone, you have to look at them not only with your eyes, but also with your brain and your heart. And this, his presentation really reminded me a lot of what the teachers brought here to the podium in regards to the Ron Clark Academy. I felt like they really aligned very well, actually. It was a very cool presentation. Maybe others will share different things about it, but that's what I had for that. I attended 2 clinics, and the one clinic that I did attend was just called Shaping the Future of Education. It was presented by the West Bloomfield School. I'm not even sure who from there, to be honest with you, I can't recall that, but it was people from there. They just talked about 60s for deep learning, creativity, character, collaboration, critical thinking, citizenship, and communication. Just basically, questioning like what are we doing to ensure that students are getting these skills. There was a very long discussion regarding learning environment at the home and in school of students. In home and at the school for students, and what it does to the school community. There was focus on making environment better at school by having they talked about having a food pantry there, which I know we have some a similar thing to that, so that was good. The only thing that they really kind of talked about that I think that we might not have, and maybe we do, was they had a lot of board members in this particular clinic indicated that they had sensory rooms available. It's been very helpful, and they've been very successful in their classroom or in their school districts. So I don't.
We do have a sensory room at the
Oh,
elementary school.
Oh, we do.
And when Billy gets into the next project, one of the things that we've got, we'll deal with that. So.
Awesome, okay, good to hear. So, so it sounds like we really are being forward-thinking and student-driven. Another thing that they did mention is, that I thought was kind of interesting, that other board members do, that I don't think that we do, is they do walkthroughs, I don't know, maybe once or twice a year or whatever, not really in not to be intimidating, I guess, but more of a, they found that they had maybe inadequate seating, or, and I'm sure that, there's people at the other, there's the administration and all that do that, but I kind of felt like I would be interested in maybe participating in something like that.
We used to do it.
Okay, all right, yeah, well, a lot of other districts are doing that, so I thought that was interesting. The other clinic that I attended was called School Psychologists Can Do That, which I know we don't particularly have one. We have social workers. But that there is just a little bit of knowledge, I guess, that I learned is that there is a national shortage for school psychologists out there. And I know that we do use a third party for some things and things like that. But I guess a couple of, I don't know if maybe it's something that we could think about or put in our head, maybe think about for later or discussions or whatever. But there's things that the school psychologist may differ from a social worker per se, having knowledge of special education laws, which I certainly don't have, so that would be nice to have, or to help identify students with behavioral problems that can be addressed that may not have an IEP yet, that kind of situation. There also was a grant that I learned about, but as I was reading it, it looked like to get the grant, which I have the name and everything of it, but it was where you could get a school psychologist or a social worker, a apprenticeship, I guess. But I think you have to be 50% for your reduced lunch, is that, yeah. Okay, well, and that's what I kind of gathered, so I don't know that would help us very much. But lastly, it is School Psychologist Week this week, so just shout out to all the school psychologists out there. I know that we don't have any, so I don't know if there's a social worker week or not, so I thought I'd shout out our social workers. Thank you so much for all the work that you do for our community, our staff, our students, and everybody, so thank you for that. The last thing that I attended was CBA class 274, which is Board Self-Evaluation Continuous Improvement class. And this was a very informative class for me. I learned a lot, actually. I know that we did conduct a board self-evaluation at one of our workshops, and when we were doing this, I recall thinking at the time, like, I don't know that this particular thing like applies to the board per se, or any information that we have, but, a lot of boards out there are doing these annually. I personally think that that's a great idea, but this is something that we can discuss, whatever, at a workshop, just planting some seeds, I guess. And then a lot of people have like the MASB review the results with the board, which I think, has its pros and its cons for sure, but maybe that's something that we can discuss and see if that's something that we want to do as a board. And they also do senior student exit interviews, which I kind of thought that was interesting.
They do them all, they do all.
Not all of them, no, I think they just do like a random selection of them or whatever. No, a lot of districts are doing that. A lot of other districts are doing that.
So the board's not doing it, just.
Well, the board is doing the exit interviews with the selected seniors.
Got it.
I'm just passing on the information. And a lot of boards are doing like agendas with time slots on there, like this much time is allotted for this particular thing. I don't know if that's something we want to do. Like I said, I'm just passing along the information. I did get information in regards to a good read apparently, which I haven't read yet, but that's what I was told it was, is a school board field book. I don't know if anybody else knows about that, but it's called Leading with a Vision. And that's apparently supposed to be, everybody was raving about that particular book. I can't really comment on it because I haven't read it yet, but like I said. And then also, for the parts that we thought that we might not be, anything that we would have was in regards to like numbers, like staff evaluations and stuff like that. And a lot of people are having the superintendents report to the board in regards to those evaluations. Like how they went, I guess, or whatever. Like, because you remember in the board self-evaluation, there was questions about that.
Right.
And that's, I guess, one way we could get that information. I guess. That's all I got. I know that was a lot.
Thank you.
Well, and I know they also discussed $750 per district that the MASD is kind of granting for any services that we might want, and they suggested using that service
To
for that.
come out and do
The board evaluation
The board
review.
evaluation.
Yeah. When we were talking about it in the class that I took, that it was, they brought up things I think that we probably wouldn't have as a board, or even, you know what I mean, notice. I'm not sure it's something we should do, but maybe we should just look into it, I guess, is my point.
Thank you. Sandy? Candace?
I did type something up because I get lost in words sometimes. First, I just wanted to thank the district for giving me the opportunity to further and strengthen my knowledge and understanding of our education system so I can be the best advocate for our district as I can be. This was my third year in a row, and just like previous years, I came back with more knowledge that I can channel through the works I do here in Richmond as a board member. So again, I just wanted to say thank you to the community for making that possible. Many of the classes that I attended were designed not only to educate on particular topics, but also included roundtable talks. It was very nice to be able to compare and contrast similarities and differences amongst the districts. I have to say that for as many ideas that I will be bringing to our organizational meeting and or board assessment workshops for future, I had just as many helpful suggestions to other districts for them to bring back to their board also. We actually are doing pretty good. So with that being said, one of the many takeaways that were consistent on most of the classes that I took were just kind of reminding us to the fact that we must maintain good open lines of communications with the teachers, community members, and students in order to be as successful as we can be. So first I'll talk about the delegate assembly, which that was very interesting. So the delegate assembly really showed me how the Michigan Association of School Boards plays an integral role in representing individual districts as a whole. It was interesting to learn that we, the individual districts, do play a role in what they advocate for by having the districts approve their bylaws and their handbooks in which the MASB board has to adhere to. Spending the time to go through each bylaw and having the ability as individual board members to go up and ask questions and be able to start conversations in a packed room was pretty interesting. I was impressed with how receptive they were to the board members' opinions, and at many times we, the board members, were guiding the debate and conversation respectfully, of course. This was a great experience, and I look forward to Richmond School Board representing and being a voice in the future. And I know Doug's going to talk more about that, so I'm done. And then also, I attended the board effectiveness strategies that was regarding the succession planning and the superintendent. This also, I know Deb is going to go over in detail, but it really, because I did take this course last year also, it just reiterated to me that eventually the inevitable will happen, and are we prepared? And so they do suggest that we have a definitive outline for an emergency policy or plan put in place for if and when the superintendent were to retire or when. So they give a lot of information about that, and I know Deb's going to talk about that. The biggest thing that they really talked about was learning how to possibly scale up from within to replace these positions. It's a known fact that there's very few people with the education that's needed to be a superintendent right now. There's a lot of openings and very few that qualify to fill the role. So scaling up is what they're suggesting, and they created some potential educative courses for that. And then another one, which I did provide for you guys. This was the funnest one that I attended, and this was from the Ypsilanti School Board. They're the ones that did this one, and it was how to live the governance standards of practice that contribute to positive student outcomes. So the superintendent and 4 of the board members, I think it was 3 or 4 of the board members, led this one, and the energy in the room was just amazing. It was so obvious that how tight they worked together, and it's a bigger district than ours, obviously, so it takes a lot more communication skills. And so what they actually had, and they shared with me, which I did share with everybody here, the Ypsilanti Board Superintendent Communications Protocol. And this really talks more about like what they expect of the board, what they expect of the superintendent. A lot of what we are already doing, by the way, but it's not really in writing yet. So, and there's some stuff in here that I think could be good for a board evaluation. Just it's written, to hold ourselves to how we communicate. Shaping public opinion was another one that really focused on the fact that we need to be clear with our vision by the language we use in what our brand or slogan is, as well as our mission statement. If our mission statement says prepare for global community, we must ask ourselves, how are we doing this, and what does this mean to each one of us? This would be a topic for a strategic planning meeting. Also talks about building trust within the community and staff. And that one I have a whole book on that I was going to workshop. I could make copies of that. And then the other course, one of them that I took was called Effective Board Meetings. And really, this course just discussed the many different ways that we can hold our formal business meetings and covered best practices for agenda lineups. It also discussed the various models and methods for which the board can use in order to prepare for the best decision making. So just, it really went over all the different options that we have, other than just the regular lineup. Some of the ideas included one meeting versus two. It discussed all the pros and cons. After the roundtable talk, it did seem like a lot of the people were wanting to go with the 2 meetings instead of 1, because it did sound like they're there for 5 hours. I mean, they're really long meetings, so sounds like we're doing good there. And they also talked about doing 2 different public comments. Sounded interesting. One right after the agenda is approved. This would be for the discussions that are specific to the business of just the meeting itself. So prior to performing the meeting, we would, if they had something. A lot of the boards had their own committees. Many different committees: personnel, finance, budget, facilities, safety, policy, curriculum council, academic and student achievement. Whereas right now we're functioning as a whole of committee. And there were pros and cons to that too. So, and then the last one that I took was understanding assessments. And that one was super interesting, not just in the reading of all of the different tests that we do, but also how the districts financially and how the financial of the district itself and the community plays such a role in the outcomes of the test scores. There was a huge talk about that, and a lot of data to prove a lot of different things. So I found that one to be very interesting. And the inspirational speaker also, it's for the children. That's all I can say. It's all for the children. That's it.
Thank you, Candace. I'm going to just kind of fill in a few things here. Well, we didn't, I think there was only one class or clinic that Candace and I went to. We tried to divvy it up to make sure we just could get whatever we could. But we were there on Thursday. We did attend the delegate assembly. It's the first time I've attended it. There was 195 districts represented from 53 counties in the state of Michigan. So there was well over 300 people in that room. And Candace explained what it was for. My only comment for this piece is that I would hope that we would do this again. This is a place where we as Richmond have input into what's going on and what's happening at the state level with MASB. So I'm hoping next year's leadership conference, we have some people who are interested in going and would like to participate in that. And as we get closer, we can look at the delegate handbook that had all the pieces that we could vote on. New resolutions, changed resolutions, things like that. So that was really interesting. I too agree with Candace. It was pretty interesting how it operated. And I think if I were to say anything about the biggest piece for me out of the whole weekend was just listening and talking to other districts and seeing what they were doing. It's pretty amazing. So Friday, we did open up. I was there all day Friday and all day Saturday. The opening session, and everybody has this in front of you. This was our speaker. His name was Sam Glenn. And the one piece that I got out of it is the difference between a bad day and a great day is the attitude you bring. And he really stressed a lot. He's a motivational speaker. He does a lot. In fact, if I'm not wrong, he did the Minnesota Vikings, didn't he? I believe he did an opening with them. But so this picture, so when he's talking, he's painting the whole time. He's up on stage. He's got a big pallet up there, and away he goes. So it's really interesting, but anyway, so the comment for this is called, "The strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack." Really deep, but it's talking about how as a board, that we're a pack, and that the strength of each individual brings something to our pack. And this can be, interpreted anyway, even in your buildings and things like that. So that was pretty cool. It was fun. He gave away paintings. He had 2 or 3 of them there that he gave away to the audience. I then attended a clinic on a successful bond campaign. The biggest thing that I pulled from that, and I know with Brian and I, we're going to talk about some of this, input from everybody, from your community to your custodians to everybody. This gives everyone an opportunity to be heard, and then it helps building. We talk about that trust, and we always hear that word transparency. If everyone's involved and everyone has some input, then they know they're involved in it. I then attended one on AI, which was really amazing. And the biggest piece for that one was to use it like a tool, like a calculator or a phone. That anything you get from AI, if it generates a report or a letter, still has to go through the human hand. We still have to look at it. We still need to see, what it is. So and I have done this, if I get a letter, I want a letter, I go into my account and I tell what I want, but then I look at it afterwards to make sure that it fits the message I want to send. So they said, think of it as a tool. They did a lot of examples. It was pretty cool. I was rather impressed. I did, the next one I did on Friday was called Onboarding Successful New Board Members, and I've already shared this with Margaret and Brian. We do a pretty good job, guys. I can't tell you how many districts don't do anything, that we talk to, that literally their new board members come in January, whatever, at the organizational meeting, and that's the first contact they have with anything. It's pretty, I was like, whoa. So there's a few things that I want to look at and add to it. One of the things was a mentor. That's something we haven't done, so we're gonna take a look at it for this year and see if we can put that in there. Candace talked, the next one was the succession planning. Candace talked briefly about that too. And it's the big thing there is to make sure we do have a plan. God forbid anything happens to Mr. Walmsley, but do we have something in place? Who's running the district? And is it anywhere in writing, and do we know, and what happens? So we may have something, I don't know, do we? I don't know. Okay, good. So we do. Maybe we just take a look at it and see what happens there. Okay, starting Saturday, we all heard Dr. Adolph Brown. I think the biggest thing for me, and they mentioned, most of you mentioned what I pulled from it too, but make sure that we thank the unsung heroes in our district. They talk about the secretaries, or the parapros, or the custodians, or the people that are back behind the scenes that are running these buildings every day, and make sure that we thank them. He also mentioned that everyone carries a backpack, and we all have issues because we are human, and we should learn to unpack our backpack and be willing to let it go. Just a thought. I then attended another clinic looking at boards with real eyes. Candace mentioned that again, to keep reminding ourselves why we are here for the kids. Why did we choose to be a board member? And they really stress that whole onboarding, and which we do, I think, a really good job in already. At one of the lunches, I guess I wanted to prove that we were busy all day. They did a legislative update, so it was really interesting to hear what was coming out of Lansing. There's some things that it's going to be pretty crazy. After that, I attended 43 Ways to be Less Lame with School Governance. Okay, I didn't get too much out of it. Okay, That'll be my one that I will admit that it was like, okay. And then the last one, and I did two CBAs too. The succession planning was one, and then shaping public opinion was the other one. Again, do we have a brand? And, okay, so if I were to ask you guys, do we have a brand?
We have a mission statement.
Do we have a brand? I know we have a mission statement.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of, isn't it kind of the same?
Yeah, my question would be, what's a brand? That
Yeah, like for example, for me, guaranteed learning for all. That's an example of a brand. Something, Brian's got that on the bottom of almost every letter, I believe, that goes out, every kind of our communication.
Yep.
That's our brand. That's, you know, that one-liner thing that sticks out there. Again, I was rather amazed that I was able to put my hand up and say, we got one. A lot of districts don't have that. Again, a lot on building trust. There was a whole section on what are called trust busters, things that would, you know, really, you know, you don't want them doing. And I didn't see any of them that we were doing, so I was pretty pleased with that. I too wish to thank the community and the district for allowing me to attend. It was a great learning experience. I've got lots of ideas and things I want to share with Mr. Walmsley. I got to talk with board members from all over the state of Michigan. I realized that we have an amazing board and superintendent who really do care what's best for our students. Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda is our instructional spotlight, Stronger Connections Grant.
Good evening, everyone. So, like Mr. Walmsley said, this will touch on some other items that have come up tonight, so hopefully it will be very fitting and timely. So, the Stronger Connections grant is a consortium grant, so it's a grant that the MISD received and is able to offer out to several of the districts across the county. So it's nice. So unlike all of the extra requirements that come with the grant, this one's kind of nice. We just get all the benefits and the ISD gets to do all the hard work. So I like that. So this particular one is it's a federal initiative aimed to really support mental health services that schools K-12 are able to offer to their students. So districts may qualify for this if they have high poverty rates, chronically absent students, issues with discipline, or a high student to mental health care professional ratio, or items along that line. So like Sandy was saying, you know, we don't necessarily have like that psychologist, like that could be something that would trigger and say, okay, that's a missing link, maybe we could do something with this. Or chronic absenteeism is in every district. I would like to see one where it isn't. So with that, Richmond was able to be invited to participate in this grant. Again, not all districts in the county were invited, so we're definitely lucky that we were considered. I think a big part of that is Superintendent Walmsley's proactive approach with the ISD and being involved with a number of the social-emotional learning and mental health initiatives they have going on out there. So with that, we were invited to come to their steering committee meeting, which happened in mid-September. And at that, they had really put together kind of a menu of different offerings that the ISD could potentially provide that fit within the scope of this grant. And so then as the districts, we got to hear what all of those were, and then we could kind of decide which ones were the best fit for us. It wasn't where we all had to use everything. So these kind of highlight the main focus areas that they were able to provide different services and resources around, and I'll get more into detail specifically on the ones that we selected. But the choices kind of circled around belonging and connection, really honing in on that concept of every student having a connection with at least one adult in their building. Whole child data systems, so really having systematic tools, resources, whether it's a program, but something so that students are really being assessed in that full academic risk index. Attendance, like you mentioned, is a big one, and there's a couple different pieces of that, and we'll talk some more because we definitely did focus on that one. I put an asterisk next to this one, the suicide and school behavior threat assessment management. I'm sure some districts will go for that. Luckily for us, we've already trained all of our leadership and support staff in that, so we don't have to take advantage of it with this grant because we've already established that as a district. Were several professional learning opportunities, I mean, more than I could probably go into here, around just a number of different mental health areas. And then another one that we will talk more about tonight, the student self-regulation, which is just access to a lot of materials and things like those sensory classrooms and those kind of things. So the ones that, after looking at all the choices, kind of bringing it back, thinking about it, that we ended up landing on were the area of sense of belonging. And so we are engaging in the silent mentoring, which involves student surveys, some staff training, and then data collection and follow-up. So I'll explain more about each of these on slides in just a moment. With the attendance area, we will participate in the MISD Attendance Network, which is a monthly group that gets together and kind of builds out an attendance plan, working together to build out an attendance plan for the districts. So we're part of that group. We'll begin our first meeting in December. And with that, we'll also have access to some additional add-ons to the Power School program that we use that will help us in tracking and pulling much more beneficial reports than we have access to right now. And again, all of that's paid for through the grant. And then the last area that we're focusing on is the student self-regulation with calming kits, which I will show you what those are all about, and Bouncy, which is another really cool tool for our youngest classrooms. So silent mentoring is, honestly, it's a pretty simple concept. It is used in many districts in our county, and it's really spread beyond, I know our consultants that we work with at the ISD now are going out to New York and other states to promote this idea that they've been promoting for a few years here. And again, pretty simple. It's the idea that every student has a connection with an adult. And so step one is for the students to kind of let the adults know, hey, these are the adults that I feel I have a relationship with. And then you do the flip, and the adults have a chance to say, okay, these are the students we have a relationship with. And then that allows the adults to determine who doesn't have a connection. And then there's, again, some pretty simple steps. Just, they say a hello, an update, and a goodbye from that silent mentor. The reason they call it a silent mentor is this is not like a very structured where, you're going to go and meet with your mentor during second hour every Tuesday, and we're going to document the progress of what we're doing, and it's going to be a set plan each time. It's kind of like the student doesn't know that this person is mentoring them. Again, the teachers, the adults find out who doesn't have those relationships, and they intentionally set out to find that student in the lunchroom or as they're coming in the morning and do that hello and update from the student and a goodbye. Good to see you. How'd the track meet go yesterday? Okay, good luck on your math test this afternoon, right? So just those quick things, but so that student feels like they're very recognized. So really cool, and again, timely. I had a chance to meet with all of our principals this afternoon just for our check-in meeting for the month. And the middle school did their first big step of this during our PD day last Tuesday. So what Ms. Marla and Mr. Knight did was they took all the students' pictures. So they had a little picture print of every single student in their building and had them hung up on the lockers after the students left, or they were there for the day, so the day before when the kids left. And then during the PD, all the teachers had different color. There was some coding to the colors. I'm not sure what that was, but sticky notes. And so they'd go through, and if I see Tammy's picture on her locker, and I have a relationship with Tammy, I would write on my sticky note what their relationship is, and they put that on her locker. Oh, I don't know Danielle. I'm not going to put one on that locker. Oh, I have this with Sandy. And so then at the end of the day, Jen and Paul were able to go around and kind of take note of who didn't have very many notes, what were those relationships, what kind of relationships. And then on Wednesday, they have a group coming together to kind of plan what they're going to do for those students that didn't. So that's their step in implementing silent mentoring, just so you get a good example of what that looks like.
That's awesome.
I will add, in our August retreat, we had a session on this among our administrators. And the thought behind this is, imagine going through the day and nobody said hello to you. Nobody asked how you're doing or said goodbye to you at the end of the day. And it's not that it was intentional, but we have, whether it's a staff person, thing, it doesn't matter, but we were looking at it from a kid's perspective. And we know any student that is connected to school or feels that they are an adult in that school that cares about them will achieve monumental stuff. And so statistically, kids who aren't connected to school are statistically the ones that schools have issues with. And so we're trying to change that to make sure every student, so this is how the middle schools approach it, but they have a very different age group than the high school. So it's just one of the things that we're trying. In the survey that went out at the end of October, November, I don't remember the dates now, this is one of the questions we ask kids. Tell me an adult that you feel connected to. And the kids who can't write an adult's name on it, that becomes our priority. We have to get someone, an adult, in that connection.
So how does this get reported back, and how do we get the funds for it?
So this one is honestly, it's kind of like, this one's a freebie, really. I mean, so you can, we could provide a little bit more training as far as, the ISD could come in and provide a little bit more training for the staff as far as like, okay, we have this group of students and we're just really not sure what to do with them. They could come in and help our staff work around some strategies and things like that. But this particular one is, I mean, there's, like you said, we added it to our survey. They helped us develop the way to word those questions so that we would yield the answers that we were looking for from the students. Again, just from hearing what they heard, this is what the middle school kind of came up with, as far as how they thought it would work for their staff in their building to get those answers. So again, the administrators at the end of the day, after all those notes were in the lockers, I know they went around with a laptop and actually like made sure they collected and made a spreadsheet of that. And so then you do, it's kind of nice, this kind of flows into something else. You do have to have some way of tracking it, right? So that's what they'll do. They're starting with that spreadsheet that they created last Tuesday, and they'll add to that. Okay, you were assigned to these 3 kids that didn't have anyone else. Next week do 3 hug conversations with them, and then our next meeting will report back and see how that's doing and see if the student's improving, right? And so you track it that way. When we talk about that add-on feature for PowerSchool, that's a kind of a tracking. What I'm looking for. It's a system within PowerSchool. So PowerSchool is what we already use for our grades and our attendance. The teachers are using it every day for any kind of entry if a student got in trouble. All of that's in PowerSchool. So this is an added report and systematizing function of that is an additional cost that we'll now be able to use. And so it's meant to track interventions like that. So if I'm assigned to a student, that would be my place where I would log it. And so any teacher that has access to see that student's grades and that student's behavior logs, they would also be able to see that intervention log of maybe that silent mentor that is working with that student. So it's really keeps everything in one place so we can really track and see.
So who else has access to that?
The teachers, the administrators, the counselor, probably. I mean, so the normal
Do
people
the
that would.
ISD have?
No.
So
The
that
ISD
stays
does not
in
have
our
access to our
PowerSchool,
power
and it
school.
does not siphon out.
Correct, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That is true.
And so, so the children that are focused on this, they're the ones that made particular comments within their questions?
Yeah, so ultimately it's the ones that, I mean, again, it's a pretty simple, so it's the ones that could not identify or said they really didn't feel like they had a relationship with any adult. And that's who the first starting point is. And again, or vice versa, if there's students out there where no teacher in the building could really say, I do have a relationship with that kid, again, those are the ones that get kind of filtered down. They don't have those relationships to speak of.
So, Brian, I know we've talked about the tier 1, tier 2. Are these children now considered tier 2? Are we getting special funding for them now?
We're not getting any funding for that. This is trying to make sure, in this particular case,
It's just
every
a
child.
one-time, it's a grant.
It's a way of taking all the data pieces that we have on kids and putting it into a format that is usable so we can see, is what we're doing working? So for instance, if I have students that are chronically disciplined, if we implement this and I have 3 staff members or even 1 staff member who commits, every week I'm going to make at least 1 connection with this kid every week, is that going to change the behavior of that student? That's what we're hoping to happen. So when you have, and I believe it is happening because the number of disciplines that come to you guys, that is significantly dropped in this district, other than, other than some, if it's a severe one, but but trying to get connections and working with kids to see the choices they make is in their control. And so from this end, that we're not, none of this is, I guess I would look at this and this grant. These are dollars that we can use for stuff or help. This particular one, as Billy says, is to make a freebie. There's no cost to this, other than the time that the ISD consultant may come out and work with our staff, say, okay, what's the next level you could take this to, or work with, but there's no cost for this.
It's amazing, the more adults that have access to these kids are, the safer the district will be. I mean, that's just the bottom line. There's more eyes on all of these kids. They're all.
Because we have looked at, as an organization, we've looked at what are our kids, because we put in Power School, if you're in track, these are our track kids. If you're in the Green Club, these are our Green Club kids.
Right.
What kids aren't involved in anything?
Exactly.
That's another population. Again, statistically, kids who are not involved in school, kids who feel isolated in school. It's a recipe for a disaster, and we're trying to be proactive and not have that. So some of the things that Billy's predecessor and even Billy going forward, we're looking for things that we can engage kids, which is why esports came, which is why some of the other clubs came out with. The push to get the theater program back, because that is a group, not all kids, but there's a group of kids, that is what they live and breathe for. Or the esports, if you've ever seen them, go and see Mr. Hill after school one day and that team, they are dedicated, they'll do anything for them. Some of those kids weren't involved in anything prior, so that's what we're trying to do with this, and so.
I understand all that. I'm just looking at it from some parental perspectives might be, they're not informed that you're spending this extra time on them, and
It's really not even extra time. Like I said, it's truly a conversation, and I would say a 30-second conversation.
And that's why I was just asking if this information is being sent outside of what we're doing.
No, there's no student information going out. It's in-house with our administrators and our teachers using it to ultimately have every student have a connection.
Have a sense of belonging.
Yes, exactly. So our next area of focus is attendance. And so again with this, a partnership with the ISD, and so the ISD has started an attendance network last year, and so we'll have a chance to join it this year. And they partner with Attendance Works, which is a national organization on attendance and attendance improvement. They have some really great professional learning opportunities, some really great information that comes out, tools, just templates that can be used, really, really user-friendly. Everything out of Attendance Works is also free, aside from some of the more in-depth professional developments, but even, I would say at least half of those are also free. So again, through the ISD, we're able to kind of access a lot of those resources around attendance improvement. This year, their kind of collective theme is to be present and be powerful. And so this kind of gets at looking at those tiers. So they do take a tiered approach to attendance intervention. And so really looking at it being more of a proactive measure rather than punitive. Once a student hits the 10 absences or 12 absences and now they're being sent out for truancy, what can we do before that? How do we prevent that from happening instead of just dealing with something after it's happened? And so much like we do with academic interventions, which are usually broken up into tiers, the tier 1 would be those students who are missing, maybe 5 to 10% of their school year at that point. What kind of measures can be taken with those? How can we encourage them and find out what's going on with the family that's causing the student not to be present as often as they should be? And then up to tier 2 and up to tier 3, which would be students missing more than 10 or more than 20% of the school year. And again, just pushing in different kind of, almost like a menu, like, okay, the students hit this threshold, now what do we engage with that? And so again, that's what the team, which is comprised of the dean of students and either the counselor or one of the social workers from each building, that we go into these sessions once a month to kind of build that out for our districts. What will that look like in Richmond? How will we approach that? And when we have these students hit these tiers, what actions will we be able to take? What resources can we provide? Maybe what community resources can we partner with? Those kind of things. And then, again, we've kind of circled around talking about that Power School add-on, the attendance intervention suite is what it's actually called. And then this is really just kind of what they boast as what you kind of can get with the intervention suite. So meant to boost attendance. Again, part of that is just really early interventions and communications with parents with a lot of really helpful information, but that can also be tiered directly towards, or geared directly towards that student's specific situation, not just, hey, all students should be here this much, but specifically this student, and they missed this many days, and that's what it means for them. There's a lot of research-based solutions, again, many resources, many tools that we can pull from the program itself. It provides several different methods of early warning, kind of giving you, kind of alerting you when students are coming to those tiers, and so that we can make plans early. Again, the intention to see behavioral change. It's definitely meant to involve the family and solving the issue at the root cause. Again, not punishing it afterwards, but we see this is happening. How can we help you? What can we do to support you and your student in getting to school? And then again, we know with attendance, if students miss too much, then they may not count as a full FTE, which could impact our funding, and ultimately that would be a very negative impact for us overall as a district, so we wouldn't want to go that route.
And if you recall, last year we had an attendance presentation by the dean, and we talked about all the strategy we're doing. If you remember the data, the amount of attendance that, kids were absent was mind-boggling. And we significantly reduced that. And you see, like at Lee, there's a bulletin board, which grade level has the best attendance for the month of September and so forth, and then it becomes a competition. You have kids who are telling parents, I want to go to school because of whatever's happening. And half days are our biggest challenge, getting kids in. And earlier elementary, when you look at that, the more kids lose or are absent, the less language they're exposed to, which is going to prevent being behind academically as they get up. And that's there's a lot.
And so really, at the time that they'll be able to spend this year is really kind of taking all those pieces that are out there and just really formalizing it so that it becomes a system rather than just, hey, we had this great idea and this great idea, right? Really looking carefully at which things are working and where we can spend the most time and get the biggest bang for our buck there.
So the IC is paying for that Power School drop in?
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Is there other financial attachments to this grant?
Everything.
Or just services?
So we don't receive any money from the grant, so the money all went to the ISD, and then they were tasked with providing the services to the districts, yes. And then again, we got to select which services, resources we chose to have from them. And that's what these are. And so then this also, again, we were talking about kind of in line with that sensory room, which like Mr. Walton said, we do have a room dedicated to that at the elementary school, but many of the teachers, especially at the elementary level, have some kind of like a calming corner, a little, they call it a time-in station, it kind of is the better than a timeout station, where they'll have these kind of sensory tools. And so again, as part of the grant, each building was able to spend up to $350 on calming kit items. So the the building's leaders got to choose for themselves which items they thought would best fit their student demographic, kind of age level. But so this is just an example of some things, some of those fidgets, kind of squishy things, different coloring books, little cards to kind of help express your feelings. So those will be much more widely available across the district, thankfully to the grant.
So the thing I'll say on this one is, unless you're taught, how do you know how to regulate yourself? When you think about it, and if for some of our students, they've never been taught that when my body starts, I start reacting, I get overwhelmed, I don't know what to do. These are some of the tools that we are using to help kids regulate themselves so that they become self-regulating rather than having someone regulate for them.
They had a lot of different kit options that they showed at that conference, so
And then this is kind of, I was like almost one of the end-all be-all of self-regulation. So this guy is called Bouncy, and so this is kind of one of our bigger takeaways from the grant. Bouncy is a tool, resource, curriculum, if you will, kind of depends on how you attack it. But it is meant for pre-K through first grade is the target group. And ultimately what it is it truly comes with an animatronic, like a stuffed animal, but this little dog that looks very much like that with his prosthetic paw, 2 different colored eyes, right? He's a unique, different kind of dog, and as we have many unique and different students. And so he, when you press that heart on his chest, he breathes. He teaches the students how to regulate their breathing, and you see him breathe in and out, and he's meant to be held and teach the students exactly like Ms. Rowland said, teach them how to regulate themselves. But so much more than just the dog itself, it comes with a full set of lessons that students can use, and we did a kind of initial, not training, but introduction with the preschool and the kindergarten, first grade teachers, so that they could understand, what this would be coming down. And all of them said without a doubt, they're like, oh, that doesn't feel like adding something extra. They're like, this is just a great tool to have, because we are spending so much time trying to help these students calm down, trying to help them understand their feelings and, put that and move on and be able to keep going with the day, that they were so thankful to have something like this available to them. So they're very excited to have this coming. So it comes with the main animal, so each classroom will have one of those. We also ordered sets for a dog to have one in the main office if a student's there and it needs it, and the social workers will have one in their room, and then all of the resource classrooms as well at those grade levels. And so they have the main animatronic dog, and then also comes with a class set of kind of the mini bouncies, kind of like a little small stuffed animal, so they can use those kind of as they're teaching them, or again, just a calming down stressful thing. And again, interactive lessons that are pretty fun. There's lots of little songs that they can use during transition times to help the kids stay calm. So really, really neat resource that we're pretty excited about. So our orders are on the way, and then we have training is getting set up for in December for this.
So I imagine as you have Halloween, and kids are excited, and they're coming back in after the parade, and they've done their, and you hear the comment, and if you volunteer in class, you might have heard this, Johnny, really just settle down, calm down. Some kids do not know how to do that. They get so excited, they don't know the skill set to do that. What this program does is, it gives a physical, the child will actually feel the breathing, and it works. I mean, I actually held it myself. I had a similar experience just recently, not with a kid, but with an adult family member who these techniques work. And so the idea is now we're giving them tools to help them become self-regulating. This was a concern of mine, that it's not in addition to or something more. And so we spent the time with the preschool teachers and the K-1 teachers. They all, and this all 100% bought in. We're thankful for it. It's just another tool that they have in their tool belt. It could be used as a one-day, once a month. I'm seeing this as a skill set. It can be something we do every morning or every day when we come back for lunch. We need to get our bodies into a certain point to get ready to do math. It's really at the teacher's discretion. There's a 2-year phase out if you followed it, but you don't have to follow it that way. You can really pick and choose. There's components that you could send home to help family members teach their kids at home on self-regulating techniques, which is, for me, one of the strong points. For the only cost that we will have for this as a district is our tuition-based preschool. We will be buying 2 kits for them. The K-1 is paid for through the grant. In talking with the ISD, the preschool GSRP kits are going to get paid for through GSRP funds at the county level, so we don't have any of those costs. We just have to pay for our tuition-based 3-year-old and 4-year-old.
We definitely wanted it to have, we wanted all of them to be able to have it. That was really important, so found a way to make that happen.
Outstanding.
We'll bring Bouncy by for a visit.
Yeah. I'd like to meet
I'd like to just hear down the road.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
How's it working? Is it?
Well, one of the things that we put in a couple of years went there a couple of years, I don't know how you're here, these strategic badges. And so the elementary has more pushes than any other building. We see that on our reports that come in, because it takes over our computer screens, we know if there's a situation, we have to respond. But when we start looking at what that data is, it's a limited number of kids that are having issues in self-regulating, or changes happen that they don't do well with change. And so these tools are what we're trying to put in teachers' classrooms, in their toolkit, so they can use with students to reduce that number. And some of the like with balance on the last one, every teacher had a kid right off the bat that they could say, that's what so-and-so needs. Is that, so we're optimistic, we're excited about it. When you look at all the components that we've opted in for, there's nothing being reported to anybody other than our internal staff using that information to make a better decision or provide a better environment for kids.
Is this a one-time grant then, or do we have?
As of right now, it looks that way, yes. Yeah. But you can never be sure.
Anybody have any questions?
No, it's just,
Is there a future we may have to pay for the upgrade in Power School? Is that only offered for 1 year then, or?
Potentially, I'm not sure how many like years of service they're providing for us, like off the bat with the grant money that's available right now. So I mean, it could happen, yes, it could be that there may be a time that we would have to incur that cost, but I'm sure we'd be able to plan well enough in advance to know if we were going to need to do that.
It's just another moment of, Macomb ISD is something that is just extraordinary. And we just have to always be saying that over and over again, because other places in the state do not have this kind of resource that the ISD offers to the districts in this county. And so I'm just going to say again, thank you so much to them and how all the ways they support the local districts is pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, next item on our agenda is our Blue Devil Raves. Let's start with Kelly. No, I don't have anything. Okay. Sandy?
I do not have anything other today.
Candace?
Sure, thank you to Ms. Morella and Mr. Knight for inviting me to the Veterans Day assembly today at the middle school. It was very heartwarming assembly, and there were some tears today, that's for sure. Good job on that.
Margaret?
Yep, I want to echo, the Veterans Assembly today was outstanding. The band was amazing, the choir, their voices were beautiful, and the speeches that the two students gave, it's just a really great assembly. We did it for years, and then it kind of went by the wayside a little bit and back doing it, but it's just outstanding. So to Ms. Morella and Mr. Knight, great job. And also, Deb, this is our point where that's what our raves are, when we say we want to lift up our people. That's
Right.
That's what our raves are. And I just want to rave to our varsity volleyball team, who on Thursday won the first district title since 1988. Outstanding. But the best part is that in doing that, in the 2 district games, we beat Armada and Marysville. There's nothing quite like that. Good. So well done, power to the women. Good enough.
Yeah, Marysville was always like,
Sure were, but not Thursday.
good deal.
3 games to 1.
Tracy? I'm good. Danielle?
I just wanted to say thank you to the elementary special ed IEP staff. Jackson had his IEP over Halloween weekend, I last minute wasn't able to make it because of the elections. But they were super accommodating. My husband went and passed me around on FaceTime. Thank goodness for FaceTime, but they were very accommodating, and I appreciated the flexibility that they had with that meeting and still making it happen and making it positive. So that was great.
And I just want to add too about the Veterans Assembly today. It was very well attended. The place was packed. I too cried a little bit. But it was very nice, and I wish to thank our administration and staff over there for putting it together. Okay, next item on our agenda is our student board representatives.
The Lee School is enjoying the new curriculum, and they can't wait to see their winter NWA assessment scores. And then 3 schools preparing for their annual Thanksgiving feast. They'll be exchanging friendship bracelets, telling about everything they're for.
Over at the middle school, we've got a lot of really interesting stuff. Our MS staff began grade level and team meetings as another layer in the efforts to improve student achievement through intentional conversations and working with student data to drive our instruction. I'd like to say something as a high school student. Listening to that like small idea being brought puts a really big smile on my face. There's multiple ways to tackle a problem, but the idea of social interaction with your peers is just phenomenal. It's a wonderful idea, just working through problems together. I mean, that's really what we're here for, is, that extra way to learn. And it's really great to see just small ideas being thrown around, especially at the younger levels, because as high schoolers, we know how much that truly helps the idea of social interaction. And it's, was even brought up the wonderful instructional spotlight presentation. Just that idea really helps push kids to truly learning. And it's just super awesome to see an idea. We're really excited to see the growth in that. Girls basketball and middle school wrestling has begun. We're looking forward to 2 great seasons of athletic excellence and great sportsmanship. Our 8th grade ELA students and several of our 4th grade students were able to provide letters of thanks and encouragement to our veterans that will be posted at Stell's collection in New Baltimore. Despite the late notice, several of our teachers were willing to rope it into their curriculum, and we'd like to thank them especially for giving the students this opportunity, and we're super excited to see where it's going to be really cool, really awesome.
I believe it's this weekend that you can view them. I believe Stalls is open on Saturday.
Okay. I heard it was soon,
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm almost positive it's this Saturday, so that you can view, if you wanted to go down there, you could view our kids' work.
There you go. Yeah, it's super awesome. As some of you guys have already mentioned as well, today was our annual RMS Veterans Day Assembly, which went absolutely amazing. We are truly grateful to everyone who made today possible, along with Mrs. Crampton, Mrs. Clausen, Mrs. Glore, Mrs. Shack. Special thanks goes out to Krista, Dar, Vanessa, and Dalton, our amazing RMS custodians who set this up, as you, Mrs. Michon, had already mentioned, bringing some of those people up under the limelight who sometimes go unrecognized. They helped a lot with setting things up, tearing stuff down, really helped put that together, along with Ian O'Neill for making sure our technology was working and ready to go for the assembly. We are grateful for our guest speaker, Mrs. Darby Smith, a USMC veteran and one of our RMS school social workers. We thank Mrs. Smith for her service, as well as thank everybody for providing such a special day for RMS, and are really excited to carry out this tradition for years to come.
For the high school, 3 students were honored this week for acceptance and inclusion, or was that a week or 2 ago?
It was last week.
Yeah. It was Mason Gaybridge, Aiden Sutherland, Adam Villager. The Halloween costume contest was a success.
I'd like to rephrase that, by the way. I think last week sounds a little wrong. I think you were right. 2 weeks ago, I
Yeah,
believe, so that was
it was like
established.
Halloween.
Yeah.
I think. The football team played their first playoff game November 1st, but unfortunately lost, but they did close out the season with a good game. November is the start of CTE advisory meetings. Instructors will be running the advisory board meetings after school and in the evening throughout the month of November and into early December. Professional development was last week on Tuesday. The focus for the teachers was to analyze building data and work through the continuous improvement process, as well as develop differentiated lessons based on classroom and reading data. And then MI Career Quest Field Trip is November 19th. Students will be attending Novi Showcase with the Zabo and Mr. Alborn. Senior band students are going to DSO this upcoming week, and then marketing team students are attending an event at the Parade Company. PSAT and NMSQT results were individually emailed to grade 11 students. I'm pretty sure all of us have checked our emails by now, freaking out about the scores. And then 4 students were recognized by awardees for the College Board National Recognition Program for rural area or small town.
For our after-school activities, as Ms. Elto mentioned, our congratulations to our girls volleyball team winning the district championship over Marysville on Thursday. First time 1988. This being the first time I had ever heard that is awesome. Super cool. We'll play tomorrow, 5 o'clock in Marysville against Warren Regina, which is good luck to them. Middle school wrestling and girls basketball have both kicked off, as mentioned previously. Just like to restate that. Winter sports are gearing up. Powerlifting started last week. Numbers continue to grow.
We have a lot of people this year.
A lot of people. It being a relatively new program, it's super cool to see how much it's taking off. It's awesome. Boys basketball, wrestling, and cheer all begin practices today. Bowling tryouts will be later on. I think it's next week is when we'll start those. High school girls basketball tryouts will be next week as well. Theater had changed their plans about the in-school performance. We will no longer do it for our fall play on the Friday opening night. However, it will be brought for our spring musical. So the idea is still out there. Just we're probably not going to make it work this time. However, next time, and hopefully years to come, we can start to make it more of a regular occurrence and really add in that additional aspect to the theater program, which we are super excited for, as well as being excited for the rest of our districts.
Anyone have any questions for them? Are you going to the symphony? Who's going to the symphony?
I will be going. It's Wednesday. No, it's tomorrow. It's Wednesday. I'm not exactly sure. I should probably double check on that. But however, yeah, there we go. When they call me down, I know I should pay more attention to that. However, I appreciate you asking more about that because as music students, it is truly an amazing experience to be able to see something like that. I mean, you go to your standard rock concert, you know what I mean, where the Detroit Symphony Orchestra is a wonderful experience for those who truly appreciate that, all-round aspect of music. And I'm super excited and really honored to be a part of that. And I'm glad that we get to keep carrying out on this tradition for our music enthusiastic seniors. And super, super excited for that.
I can't wait to hear about it.
I'd like to be a part
I'd
of
like to hear about Parade Company. I would love to go there.
Have you ever gone? Have you ever gone?
No.
It's really cool. That's what I've heard.
Is that so? Might have to look into this. Okay, next item on our agenda is our superintendent and legislative update. Ms. Walmsley.
Just to follow up on what Joe said regarding or Elizabeth said about the students that were recognized for acceptance and inclusion. At the beginning of the year, welcome back, the Education Foundation gave staff members a $50, I believe it was $50 to use as they see fit to support something that they do. And they gave it to each of our groups from food service to custodians and so forth. And Mrs. Zabo actually had won it for the administrative group. And so she took her dollars to recognize and honor those students with some gift cards. So that's great cause, and it's really what we're trying to get with all of our students, so. Legislative update, there is none. Election was held last week, so now we are watching the lame duck session, which is often referred to. I did send the board a link today about the lame duck registration with the Michigan School Board Association. It's on the 18th around noon, I believe noon. But if for some reason you don't have the ability to, if you're at home or office, you're more than welcome to come into the board office and I'll get you hooked up. Because I will be watching, and I'm very curious and interested in what's going to come down the in lame duck. I too want to congratulate Coach West and the volleyball team. It is pretty remarkable. When I heard 1988, I was in high school in 1988. So, pretty cool. And I think that the team recognized the importance and significance of it that night. They are a tough group. Those girls are tough when they play. So good for them. Last Wednesday, the district had Rath Films utilized our facility to film an upcoming movie called UFO Hunters in our auditorium. If anybody like, it's coming out. I don't think a release date's been set yet, but there were several actors and actresses there. I've watched movies for the dialogue. I don't always remember who the actors and actresses are in movies. But I know Clint Eastwood's daughter, Francesca Eastwood, was one of the actresses there. There was about 225 community members there. A little over half of our auditorium was filled, kind of the middle section, who were extras in the movie. Earlier in the day, they shot the movie or scenes from the movie at Selfridge, and so this was our scene. My understanding is the aliens, they're doing a debriefing, and the aliens are attacking the world, and the roof of the building is supposed to be ripped off digitally. That will be our auditorium. So when you see the movie, where we should be able to have our little but it was interesting talking to the community members. What they planned on filming and what they filmed often were two different things as they were looking at the facility and the people, and they were going to do it. It's just an interesting process, watching movies. And so a lot of our students were able to be part of this and just kind of see, particularly our TV production studio students in the theater. So I appreciate that. Our next community conversation is next Tuesday, the 19th. It will be here in the auditorium. We're going to touch a little on the audit on it, but we're also going to talk about school funding and how our funds we get them. So a letter will go out to the community tomorrow, encouraging them to come and learn more about school funding.
You said auditorium, or is it?
I'm sorry, it will be here in this room in the media center.
Thank you. Okay, next item on our agenda are items of interest from the board. Margaret? I'm good. Danielle?
I'm good.
Candace?
I'm good.
Tracy?
Good, I'm fine.
Sandy?
So I do have to backtrack a little bit to the raves, and I'm sorry I don't have all of the information, but I thought that Candace actually might say something about it, so that's why I didn't. But I did see that the choir had like 5 or 6 Division I ratings.
5 out of 5.
Was it 5? That is awesome.
5.
All of them.
Yeah,
that
all
was
of them.
Super awesome.
Was that for
So
the
who
musical
got
theater?
near perfect scores? It was super awesome.
Yeah.
The Michigan School Vocal Music Association Musical Theater?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
I think it was Oxford last Saturday, this past Saturday.
Yes, it was Oxford this past weekend, but I mean, that's amazing. I follow the choir and the arts programs, obviously everybody knows that, but this is the first time I think that that's ever happened, that I can recall. So that's just amazing. Great job to the director and all those students and everything. I'm sorry I don't have names and everything. I tried to break a rule and get my phone to get the names, but I couldn't find them in time, so I apologize for that.
Was it high school? Is it high school?
Yeah.
Yeah, Miss Maples, yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry, backtrack on that. And then, I also just wanted to make a note, in regards to a comment that was made on the school's Facebook page, that an individual had indicated that a source had told them that, the Board of Education had passed, a policy allowing litter boxes in our bathrooms.
I do remember.
And I just I just think this is the most absurd thing that I have ever actually even heard. But my point is that your source is absolutely wrong. The board has never even discussed that issue, let alone talk about a policy or pass the policy for that. That's never been brought up. So I would just encourage individuals to get correct information, to call the schools, talk to administrators, watch the meetings, or just use the Just Ask button that's available to get proper information. This is how ridiculous rumors get started, and it's unnecessary and completely untrue. I just wanted to mention that, you know, it took a lot in me not to actually comment on the Facebook particular comment, because I try to, you know, we try to make a conscious effort to try to stay out of those things. But anyways, but I do want to end it on a good note, and the good note is that I also want to thank the district for approving and sending me to the conference in Lansing. It truly is an awesome experience. In the past, I have gone to these things, not last year, but I think in the past I've gone, and I don't usually, I usually like a few of the clinics, and not all of them, but I this time had an absolutely 100% positive experience. I think that a lot of board members get a lot of things out of it. If even just speaking to other districts and other board members across the state, and it reassures me, and not only just reassures me, but it gives me a little bit sense of pride, to be honest with you, because we are doing everything that these districts are trying to get done. Like, we really are. And when you go to these conferences, you see it. You see it in plain black and white, that Richmond Community Schools, for how tiny of a district we are, really are very forward thinking. We're ahead of the game, I think. So appreciate everybody that takes part in that. That's it.
The bonds were huge, a huge topic.
I asked Mr. Walmsley if he would do a clinic next year with us, so we'll have to take a look and see if we can come up with something, and we'll send it on and see if we can get approved. Because I too agree with what you just said.
Yeah.
We have a lot of positive pieces going on here. Again, I was totally amazed at what, I mean, guys, let's see, one district talked about their athletic department was embezzling money. I mean, we just don't have those things going on, and so we're really proud I'm really proud to be a part of that. The only other piece I want to add is we are doing Mr. Walmsley's eval next Monday. I have only 3 board members, including myself. Your input, so please make sure that you get them to me as soon as possible. I had asked for today, but I know people got busy things going on, because I like to get it all collated in a document, so we're all ready for next Monday. And that starts at 6:30. Pardon me, 6:30? Yeah, 6:30. Okay, thank you. Yep, you're welcome. Okay, public comments. Since the last board meeting, the board received 1 email regarding the Grove and Division crosswalk safety concern. Mr. Walmsley replied to that parent and also contacted the Department of Public Safety, as this corner is off our campus and we have no authority to stop traffic. So there are no other public comments from the last board meeting. At this time, any member of the public may address the board. Please sign in and state your name. You'll have 3 minutes to address the board. Are there any public comments? Okay, being no public comments, being no further business, the board will adjourn at 9:19. Thank you very much, everyone.